Story versus account. What do I mean by this? Well, basically, I mean the difference between like a narrative and a documentary. You know, I think stories are things that stay with us because they explore the human condition and they reflect conflicts and voids and regrets that we have within ourselves as human beings. Now, if you ever watched this Star Trek The Next Generation, now this has some excellent stories like this, and it's a series I cannot recommend enough. However, like any other series, there's also a lot of episodes about all really, just shit. Now, I'll try to explain what I mean by this, because I think there's a fine line between a story and an account in terms of, in terms of quality and meaning and purpose, etc. What you take away from it is very, very different between these two things. So, for example, Captain Picard, he falls in love with this officer under his command who reignites this kind of repressed passion he has for playing music, but he has to send her on a mission that could end her life. You see, that's a great story. It deals with character and dilemma. You see, dilemma is the key. Another story, you've got android Commander Data, who builds himself a daughter who unexpectedly develops these emotions. But Data has to refuse when Starfleet orders him to surrender her for research. So when push comes to shove, his daughter's fear, her overwhelming fear, just causes her to completely malfunction, and she faces the end of a very short life. It's a terribly sad story, but it is a great story. It's about characters coming to blows with their own personal limits, their own morals, etc. You see, I think a good story really is about characters. I think it's a focus on character. It has to be. A focus on a sequence of events, it's more of an account. For example, Dr. Crusher, she finds herself in this reality somehow where her crew gradually vanishes from existence until she's all that's left. You know what I mean? It's literally just a character having to solve a predicament that she's in. Then you got Wesley, who discovers that a video game has zombified everybody on the Enterprise, and so he has to destroy it before the crew forces him to play it and get brainwashed and zombified as well. Again, it's just another instance of problem solving. You see, they're accounts. They might be interesting for a small time, but they don't really have any substance because the characters aren't really faced with any life-changing dilemmas or provoked to change as people. They're just thrown into these situations, these problems they need to solve, and ones that, to be honest, we can't really relate to. Now, when Worf's legs are paralyzed in an accident, he asks his close friend Riker, Commander Riker, to basically just f*** him off, to just end his life in this crazy Klingon ritual. So Riker's outraged by this. He seeks advice from Captain Picard, but Picard says, no, we should respect Worf's culture and traditions. They should be respected. You see, now that's a great story. You've basically got a single tragedy causing 3 major characters to come to blows with their personal morals. It's brilliant episode. Then you've got the bright and the talented Wesley. Not many people liked Wesley. I don't really like the either. He's a bit of a he always saves the day. He's always the guy who knows better than everybody. Oh, off. Anyway, he is bright and he is talented. But you see, he falls in with this devious group of students at Starfleet Academy who basically pressure him to cover up his involvement in the accidental death of a fellow student. See, there's a great story. Eventually he has this confrontation with Picard, who puts the law down. Boy, he slaps his foot down. Son, I tell you what, Wesley does not see it coming. Wesley gets the best talking to in the whole series. It's brilliant. That's not why I like the episode, though. It's just because, you've got a likable character. Wesley is a good-hearted character who has to come to terms with this dilemma. Do I tell the court what really happened, or do I bullshit? And I just say that the guy offed himself. Then finally, another example. We've got Captain Picard, who's taken prisoner by these Kardashians. Incidentally, the guy who played the guy who captured Captain Picard, he was in one of the Terminator, one of the TMNT movies. I think he played the scientist, the TGI scientist, or some shit like that. I don't know, I'm derailing massively. So anyway, Picard is taken prisoner by this Kardashian who basically strips and tortures him until he faces the limits of his morals and his principles. And in these final moments of this episode, the torturer reveals a tragedy from his own childhood. And Picard, in agony, having been tortured, says to this guy, "In spite of all you've done to me, I find you to be a pitiable man." And it's an incredible moment. It's incredible. I gotta say, guys, if you've never watched The Next Generation, I highly recommend it. It really does embody that critical difference between an amazing story and just a so-so kind of account. It really is worth a watch. It's a long series, but it is available on Blu-ray. It's just come to Netflix in Australia. Watch it. Watch it, guys. Watch it. It's brilliant.